Comics on the Pyre, where everyone can come and indulge in all things comic related, whether it be movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, or just comics themselves. If you love comic books, then show it by hitting that subscribe button to help this precious media that we all love thrive and flourish. For anyone who has been reading comics for any length of time, after a while, you start gravitating to certain writers and comic book artists. You get familiar with their work and can't wait for their next newest creation to splash on that panel. Whether it be Frank Miller's 300, Brian K. Vaughan's Saga, or even Garth Ennis's Preacher, they are all great storytellers and character creators. But each creator takes its creation from works that has come before them. They are not totally unique and onto themselves. Somewhere in every writer's mind, there was an inspiration that gave conception to each and every one of their own creations. Here's a list of 5 ways comic books were influenced by classical literature. Number 1. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, published in 1886 by Robert Louis Stevenson, is about a man who transforms between 2 totally different personas. Dr. Henry Jekyll creates and digests a drug that allows him to transform into another person known throughout the story as Mr. Edward Hyde, a man who is self-indulgent, vicious, and violent in nature, an uncontrollable brute of a human being. His comic book persona appears way back in December of 1963 in Journey into Mystery, Volume 1, Issue number 99. He was created by the man himself, Stan Lee, and Don Heck, an illustrator at the time. Hyde was created originally as a foe for Thor to slug it out with, but over time he has been known to tussle with the likes of the Incredible Hulk, Amazing Spider-Man, and the Man Without Fear, Daredevil, making him a well-rounded adversary that can be used against many of Stan Lee's superheroes. Number 2. Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, published in 1865, tells of a young girl named Alice who falls down a rabbit hole and is transported into a fantasy world populated by anthropomorphic creatures. In the story, she meets many fantastical creatures and characters that are quite mad. One of these is the Hatter, who Alice comes across while he is having tea. Her conversation with him is incongruous, as he has a fancy for riddles and rhetorical outbursts. His comic book persona debuted in October of 1948 in the pages of DC's Batman, issue number 49. The Hatter's real name in the comics is Jarvis Tetch. He is a neuroscientist who develops mind control devices to subjugate the people to his will and whim. Physically, Tetch is not much of a threat to Batman, but he more than makes up for this handicap in the intelligence department. If only he wasn't as crazy as his name suggests. Number 3. Moby Dick by Herman Melville, published in 1851. I personally love this tune. It is not only a story about a man that is so far possessed that he is the reason for his and his whole crew's death, but it is a virtual encyclopedia about whales. If you decide to tackle this behemoth of a book, you will not only get a good read, but an education on these mammals of the sea. But it is the Pequod's captain that we are most interested in for the slot on this list. Marvel's rendition of Ahab. This character debuted in Fantastic Four Annual 23, first volume. Ahab was a leader in an alternative comic book reality of the government-sanctioned group known as the Hound Program. Its sole purpose was to track down and capture mutants for internment. After combating the X-Men known as Rachel Summers, his body was horribly mutilated, and since then, he has been dependent on technology to revive himself. His storyline in comics is both complex and convoluted. Number 4. The Time Machine written by H.G. Wells in 1895. In this classic, Wells writes about a species known as the Morlocks, who dwell deep underground and are horribly disfigured. They are ape-like cavemen, troglodytes. But it is eventually revealed that towards the end of the novel that the Morlocks were more than what they first appeared to be. Their comic book rendition first appears in May of 1983 at Marvel Comics Uncanny X-Men number 169. They are a large community of mutants who felt that they were outcasts from society, so they took up shelter in the underground tunnels beneath New York City, New Jersey, and Connecticut. They were largely hunted down to the point of near extinction by a group known as the Marauders, if not for the interference for the X-Men themselves. The story takes place in Marvel's Mutant Massacre story arc. I myself have done an extensive video on the story arc if you wish to get caught up on exactly just what has happened. Just scroll down on my YouTube page and you will see for yourself. Number 5. Plato's Timaeus and Critias. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where is Plato, Socrates, or Greek philosophy in any of the comics that I have read? Now, my friend, if you just wait 1 minute, I'll be happy to explain. There is one word Plato mentions in his work that is in fact significant to not only one, but 2 famous comic book characters that you will know of. And that word is Atlantis. In the Criteria, Plato tells a story of the mighty island kingdom of Atlantis, who fell out of favor with the gods and therefore was swallowed up by the sea itself. If you viewers have been reading comics for any length of time, you will know that the underworld city of Atlantis is home to both Namor the Submariner and Aquaman, aka Arthur Curry. Well, there you go, comic fanatics. 5 ways comic books were influenced by classic literature. If you have time, check out my YouTube channel, Comics on a Pyre, for other videos like this one. Tap on that bell icon before you go. And oh yes, as always, until next time, keep reading, my friends.